Hi there, I'm Shannon Doan and I'm an academic professional here at Arizona State University at the Polytechnic campus. I teach classes like general biology for majors, as well as plant taxonomy sometimes, and restoration and wildlife plants sometimes too. I did my graduate work here at ASU on the Tempe campus, working in plant taxonomy, which is the study of the evolution and classification of plants. So Dr. Corona asked me to give a brief orientation to a really great tool that we have online, and one that I had some involvement in developing. It's been, at least 15 years now since we started this. So we're going to start off just on your computer. Just go to your browser. The web address that we're going to is SWBiodiversityorg/SciNet, or if you can't remember that, just go to Google and type in SciNet, and it'll be your very first hit. So this entire website is dedicated to publishing the distributions of the plants, not just of Arizona, but everywhere. So previously, if you wanted to know what a particular plant's distribution was, you had to go to the written literature. People have always been tracking where plants are and kind of where they grow and what they're doing seasonally, when they're in flower, when they're in fruit. But that information was hard to get at. So now we have this tremendous database of data from scholarly sources, as well as from citizen scientists who are contributing on a daily basis the distribution of plants. Why do we even care about this? Because everything depends on the plants. So if you're interested in wildlife, you have to know what plants are growing where. This is important to the health of the wildlife, and the health of the wildlife is going to depend completely on the health of the ecosystem and the plants that are involved with that. It's also important to look at habitat loss and distribution of rare species. So this tool gives us a little help in solving some of those problems. So it's not exactly the most user-friendly thing, but once you get into it, you'll see how useful it can be for you. So if you are just looking for images, say you have a particular plant that you're interested in, that's probably the easiest thing to do, is just go to image browser, or you could go to search images if you had the exact species in mind. You can look by plant family, or the genus, or the species. This is a list of plant families. You can see there are many. If you know exactly what you want, you can type in either the scientific name or the common name. Now keep in mind, with common names, many plants may share the same common name. When you're doing scholarly work, or if you're doing work where it really matters that you have exactly the right plant, you want to make sure you have the scientific name, because sometimes, if you put in a common name, you're going to end up with a list of 100 different species that apply. So we'll go to the scientific name. Let's look up Greggii. All images. That's the only one that we want. Oops, I have to scroll over a little bit here. And it'll give you many, many images here, and it'll tell you who the photographer is as well. Now I want to point out, some of these are images, from the field, which are great because that's what's going to be most useful for you if you're, say, doing field work or you're on a hike and you just want to know what plant it is that you saw. Let's see. How do I go back? Okay. But some of these are herbarium sheets, and I've got one here. So an herbarium sheet is a voucher of a specimen. So if you look at this here, this is a plant that was collected, and it'll have a label with all of the information about where it was collected. So it'll have the scientific name, the precise location of where it was collected, as well as all of the other species that were growing with it, the date, the name of the collector, and that person's collection number. So that person, Wendy Hodson at the Desert Botanical Garden, this was the 19,832nd plant that she collected. So these herbarium sheets provide a physical voucher for the flora of everywhere. People have been making herbarium sheets for hundreds of years. We even have at the ASU Herbarium that is housed in the Alameda building, just south of the Tempe campus. We have something like 350,000 herbarium sheets that document precisely where these plants grew and when they grew there. This is important because it gives us an idea of our changing ecosystems. For example, we have a whole suite of plants that grew along the Salt River before it was dammed. So we had a completely different ecosystem there. Once the dams came in the early 1900s, a lot of those plants went locally extinct, but we have a record of them. As global climate change continues, we are seeing differences in the timing of flowering, in the abundance of plants, and even of where they're growing. So some plants that grew at lower elevations are now going up to higher elevations to avoid some of the consequences of global climate change, of global warming. So herbarium specimens are extremely important. So you'll see on SciNet both herbarium specimens and physical and regular pictures. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning here. So another really great tool here, if you go to search and then search collections, say you want to see where a particular plant grows. When you go to search collections, you're going to get this whole big list of herbaria. Herbaria, again, are the scientific kind of houses for these plant collections that have been kept, for hundreds of years, depending on how old the herbarium is. The ASU herbarium is right at the top, but we have many other participating herbaria from NAU, U of A, Desert Botanical Garden, so on and so forth. And so you can check or uncheck all of these. They are by default all checked, and that's fine. So you can just keep those checked and then go to the next bubble there. And then you're going to enter your search parameters. So let's look up, we'll just use that same plant since it's at the top of my head here. Acacia greggii, this is cat claw. And we'll say we just want to look in Arizona. And then search. So it'll give you a list of every single record. This is just for this one plant. So you may not care about all of those, but what you do care about is where it grows. So you can click on Maps and then display the coordinates. And you can see how many of these collections have been made. Whoops, I'm trying to zoom in, not zoom out. So there have been an awful lot of collections in Arizona of this plant, Acacia greggii, but notice they're all, you can see where the lines of distribution end. So it's everything kind of south and west of the Mogollon Rim is where we're finding this plant, not here. And then we have one that was collected out here. So let's go back here. You can also go, if you go to search collections, say you're going on a hike and you want to know what's growing there. You can even kind of print out a list so that you know what to look for. So let's say, let's look at, this is where I did some work once. So Seven Springs, which is an area northeast of Phoenix in the Tonto National Forest. We'll put Arizona, just so there's no confusion. We don't have to put anything in the taxonomic criteria because we want to know everything that grows there. Okay. thinking. Okay, finally. Okay, so you'll have all of these occurrence records. So this is everything that has ever been collected there that we have a record of. And these are vouchered specimens. So these are specimens that we have a physical collection of. So you don't really maybe care about those specifics, but what you can do is get a species list and let that load. And so now you'll have a list of species by family. So you'll have all these plants, and then you can actually turn this into images. Get up to the top here. Let's see. Wait, that's not what I wanted to do. You can download it. There we go. No? Let's try that again. Trying to get over a little farther here. That is not it either. So here's our checklist. And now you have the option of displaying common names or images. So let's just pick images and click rebuild list. And now you'll have a complete image checklist of all the plants in the Seven Springs area. So if you're going up there for a hike, or maybe you're doing work there, volunteering there, or looking at wildlife, you want to know what the plants are, you have all of those plants available here too. Okay, and then if you click on each individual one, you'll get more information. You'll get a specific description and then more images. And if you click more images, you'll get even more images, usually of herbarium sheets. The Desert Botanical Garden, I believe, has scanned every single one of their herbarium sheets, so you'll see a lot of their stuff on there. So it's a tremendous resource. Sometimes you'll see, close-ups that will give you, flower characters that may be hard to see otherwise. Okay, so if you go back to the beginning, let's see, you can also open, let's see, if you do this little key, click the little key for that checklist that you just generated, or it could be for any list of plants that you've generated, you can go through and do the interactive key. So say you've got a plant in front of you, you've already narrowed down the location, you can go through and say, okay, is it an herb or a shrub? So an herb would be something with, no woody parts on it, so it's an herb. Okay, that narrowed our checklist down. We'll say it's kind of succulent. Say it has alternate leaves, clearly odoriferous. That narrowed it down to 2 plants. And then at that point, you can look at the pictures of these 2 plants and decide which one is your plant. So that's very useful as well. And the one last thing I want to show you is how to do a search. If you don't necessarily know the name or the keywords that you're looking for as far as locality, you can narrow it down using a bounding box. So go back to this search. If you go to this bounding box, you can actually draw a little box around your locality. Or if you know the lat long of where you are, you can put it there and say, okay, I want to do a 5-kilometer radius. So here's Arizona. So wherever you click, it kind of makes the box, but you can drag. And you can even make this area a little bit bigger. So let's say I want to look going right, say I'm going down by Tucson. Submit. So it enters the latitude, longitude for you. Then you can click search. These are big databases, so it does take a little while sometimes. You just have to kind of be patient. Okay, so you have your occurrence records again, like we had earlier. Again, you can click species list. You get the species list. And again, you can click to get display as images. And then you have your little interactive flora based on exactly the coordinates that you put in. Okay, so just a couple of other quick things. Some floras are actually already entered as checklists. So instead of going through and searching coordinates or searching localities, if you're going to kind of an established place, you can click the flora projects in Arizona. So these are things that people have worked on or are actively working on. Sometimes there's a class, like this is a class that I taught, and so I put a checklist up here for my students. Arizona Spring Flora is a class that's taught out of Tempe. But if you look, there's a lot of different areas. So, if you're going to the White Mountains, or you're going to the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve, you can look and have it right here already ready for you. And then you can click that key, if you remember, and do the interactive key to identify plants as you go. So that is a really quick introduction to SciNut and some of the tools available to you. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me. My name again is Shannon Doan, and my email is sdoan@asu.edu. Thank you.